Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Guys, I've spent years going through personal development books, courses, spending a lot of time trying to answer questions like how do you make money, how do you save money, how do you spend your money, how should you be doing those things. And in today's video, I want to be sharing a little bit about what I've learned and some of the lessons that I'll pass on hopefully to you guys as well that you can take into your life. So in this video, I'm going to go step by step through different bullet points and you guys can take them, and if you've got questions about each one, just put them in the comment section below. So the first point is that to make more money, you need to solve bigger problems. So something I've realized is that if you have a problem this big, generally you're going to earn money to that same degree, right? Now, if you want to make more money, you've got to find bigger problems that you're going to solve, because it just makes sense. Money is the exchanging of value. It's just a tool. You know, it's not money. What is money? Money is a tool of the exchange of value. So if you are, if you're earning $60,000 a year, you're probably solving a problem or problems that are worth that much. Whereas if you have, say, a heart surgeon, for example, they solve a really big problem, so they're getting paid bigger bucks. So if you want to make more money, you've got to find bigger problems to help solve and for people. So the second point is it's generally easier to make more money than it is to save more money. Okay, what do I mean by that? If you have a certain amount of income coming in, that's a finite amount that you have to work with. For example, if you earn $60,000 a year, if you take out where you live, how much you need to eat, some of the personal things that you need just to even survive, you're only going to have a certain amount left over. Whereas if you are able to work more or solve bigger problems, like I talked about in point one, it's easier to have more saving when you earn $100,000 a year than it is for $60,000 a year. So if you're looking to save more money, yes, you can be doing things on the defensive end or the savings end, but really what you want to be doing is you want to be trying to increase your income, because it's a lot easier to do it that way. And now the next point is it doesn't matter how much you earn, but it really matters how much you keep. Right? Have you ever wondered when you see NFL players or NBA players and they go bankrupt, right? They've earned millions upon millions of dollars, but because of their habits and mindsets, they've ended up with zero. Someone who has been earning $50,000 a year the whole time has more money than someone who has earned millions upon millions of dollars who went bankrupt. Now, why is that? It's not necessarily because of the earning, but it's because of how much you keep, right? Another maybe more, like another example that might be more relevant is, say there's someone who earns $50,000 a year and they can save $20,000 a year, but then say there's someone who earns $100,000 a year, but they spend 80, so they, with taxes and their living and everything, so they only have 20, they end up saving the same amount or be able to invest the same amount per year, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter how much you make, but the bottom line is how much you actually keep after you do everything. Now the next point is to be aware of where your money goes. Otherwise, you're not going to be aware of where your money goes. If you don't actually measure, or if you don't have the awareness on track, like where your money is actually going, it's always going to feel like your money is just slipping through your fingers. Like, why am I not able to keep money? Right? You need to be able to budget. You need to be able to have the awareness. You need to be able to know where your money is going. And that comes down to knowing what subscriptions you're subscribed to, knowing when you're spending what, knowing how much you're spending. I think a big mistake people have is just thinking like, oh, I kind of roughly know in my head how much I'm spending. But I think I would challenge that and be like, until you actually see it kind of on paper, you can kind of see the sums, you might actually be surprised. So if you don't have the awareness, like for example, budgeting or tracking, if you don't have the awareness, it's going to be really hard for you to know and to actually be empowered to get on top of your personal finances. The next point is if you're not able to find ways to make money when you're asleep, then you're always going to be trying to make money and working when you're awake. Now, what do I mean by that? There's different types of income. There's the active income where you go and you earn, for a living. And then there's the passive or asset income that is where it's not necessarily attached to your time. Now, there's nothing wrong with necessarily having income coming in attached to your time. But the problem is if it's always attached to your time, unless it's like exuberant amounts of money, you're probably going to find that nest egg's just going to go down, down, and down. And if you start working, it's just going to keep on going down and down and down. You need to be able to find a way to have that increase when you're not physically working. And there's different ways of doing that. But that's the saying that, I've really thought about and learned, that if you're not able to make money when you're asleep, then you're just going to be constantly needing to make money when you're awake. Now, the next point on earning money is if you don't believe you can have a better life and actually earn more income, then you won't. Right? I think a lot of problems with people who are trying to earn money is that at a heart level or belief level, you don't believe that you're worthy of that increases. Let's just say, you're on $80,000 a year. If you don't believe you're worthy or able to earn $200,000 a year or $150,000 a year, then you're not going to put yourself in position to earn that kind of money. I think earning more money is a lot of it comes down to the mental side of it, and of course there's like skills and other things that you'll get as well that you need. But firstly, you need to have the belief that you are capable and that you are worthy of having that kind of income. Otherwise, money again is just going to slip through your fingers, and you won't be taking the opportunity because you don't feel worthy of that kind of income coming in. Now, the next point builds upon that one. It's without vision, the people perish, and that comes from that's a Bible verse. And just like the last point, you need to have the belief that you can do it. But this point is that if you don't have the plan, if you don't have the stepping stones of how do you actually do that, then it's going to be hard to execute on a plan that you don't know. It's like trying to get from Sydney to Perth and just hopefully trying to guess the way. You can probably get there, but if you have Google Maps, you have a tool, if you have a plan, then it's a lot easier, and you're going to save so much time and money, effort, energy, etc., etc. So, there's so much value in getting a plan from someone who has been there and done that before. Not saying I have the plan or whatever, but just whatever your industry is and whatever your goals are, it's just finding someone who has the plan. Having Google Maps to get to Perth will be a life changer for you. The next thing I learned is budgets are all about you being in control of your money. A few years ago, I used to think that budgets were about being restrictive or about, for people who don't have discipline or you don't have control. But budgets aren't a disempowering thing, but they're actually empowering, because it's you deciding beforehand how you telling your money where to go, instead of being unsure of the plan and impulse buying or not being sure, do I spend this, do I not, and living in that kind of uncertainty. You can have the certainty from before, because when you've done the plan at the start of the month or whenever you do a budget, it empowers you to actually take control of your spending. And then not just that, but you can also determine earlier how much you're going to invest, how much you're going to save, how much you're going to give. It's all about empowering yourself, and it's not disempowering at all. Now, the next point I've learned is you've got to pay off debt. When you're in debt, you feel like a slave. And when you feel like a slave, you feel stressed, you can feel out of control, you can feel unhappy, you feel restricted. And, personally, I've got, a mortgage that I'm currently paying off, but I used to have student debt, and that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But, if you ask me, I had almost $15,000 of student debt, is that, do you feel kind of stuck with that? Do you feel, do you feel like kind of a bit of a slave to that? I would say no, not at all. It's a very minimal interest rate. But then, one day I just decided, I'm just going to pay it off instead of kind of doing it year by year. So I just paid the whole thing off. And even though it wasn't necessarily the greatest amount in the world, just 15,000, paid it off, and I felt this sense of wow, I don't owe money to the university, and it feels incredible. So that's one feeling that I've learned, is that when you're in debt to people, or when you're in debt to certain things, you feel you kind of feel a little bit like a slave, or you feel out of control a little bit. The next point I've learned is, to get rich, you need to be okay with looking silly and people judging you. Now, if you think about it, who are the people who earn the most amount of money? It's the people who, like I said at the start, who are solving the highest amount of problems. Now, how are you going to get the skill set for solving the highest amount or a big amount of problems? You're going to be putting yourself out there, making mistakes, growing. If you're not growing, if you're not putting yourself out there, are you really actually, if you're not making mistakes, are you really growing? Are you really stretching yourself? Or are you still in your comfort zone? So if you're going to be leaving your comfort zone, then you're probably going to be looking silly. People are going to be judging you. People might be like, oh, why are they trying so hard? Or why are they, why are they posting that? Or why are they working so hard at their career? Or, there's no perfect kind of balance as you go on this journey. But something you need to be okay with is, you need to be okay with people judging you, and maybe not necessarily understanding. If you think about like a movie actor, something like a Ryan Gosling or Ryan Reynolds or anyone Ryan, they probably spent years going to auditions, trying this, and people are thinking, why are they trying, or why are you bothering, or really judging, oh, you want to be a famous movie actor or whatever. But you have to kind of get over that if you're going to do anything worthwhile, anything successful, is you need to be able to put the fear of what other people think of you to the side and really pursue your goals, your passions, and what I would say God has in front of you. Now, coming into the last 2 points here, and they're both really important. The second last point is leverage controls the ship, right? So if you think about a really big ship, at the very end, it's got a little lever, and or maybe it's at the front, but it's a little steer thingy of like which way the ship goes. Now, if you turn it just a little bit one way, it turns the whole ship, right? And if you turn it a lot, it's going to turn the ship even more. And that's the same thing with money. To really grow at a faster rate, you need to leverage. Something. Now, not necessarily leveraging in the way, the kind of standard way you would think, but there's different ways of like unless you leverage something, you're just going to be growing at the same pace as everyone else and kind of be average, which is okay if you want to be average, but if you want to really move forward or faster than other people, then you need to be able to leverage things faster. So the first thing to think about with leverage is you need to leverage your own gifts and skills and your own uniqueness, because you have your own gifts, you have your own calling, you have your own passions, you have your own experiences or pains and stories that you can tell, and you need to be able to leverage that because that's something else that no one can copy you with. So that's the first thing. And the second thing you need to leverage to really make more money is you need to leverage other people's experience. Level one is really being able to leverage your own experience, but the problem with that is that takes time, and by the time you get those experiences, you're going to be older, and it's okay because you're at least having the awareness, but you're not moving necessarily at a faster pace that you could be. So level two is leveraging other people's experiences, whether it's about making money, whether it's about skills in your career, whether it's about how to your mental health or emotional health, or you need to leverage other people's skills and experiences, because there's, like the title of this video, I read hundreds of books. You can for $20 you can get the culmination of someone's life work for 40 years as a businessman or a clinician or a mental health skill or whatever. You can get the whole life's work kind of put into what you can read in 5 or 6 hours. So that's another form of leverage, as being able to leverage other people's skills and experiences. Otherwise, you're just limited to your own experiences. So that's the second point. And then other ways you can do leverage is the more traditional money. You can leverage money if you have $10,000 in the bank and you earn 5% interest at the bank. Then that gets you $500 a year. If you have $1 million in the bank and you put say the same 5% interest rate, that's going to leverage you $50,000 a year. So money by itself is a great leverage. The next leverage you can have is people. So if you have people who work for you, you're leveraging yourself. Like if you're a manager, if you're a boss, you can have an assistant, you can have someone doing this, you can have someone doing that, you can have someone doing sales for you. If you have these things, you can leverage yourself out. You're leveraging through other people. So think about how can you leverage other people, and obviously you're compensating them. So it's not like a manipulative thing, but like a leverage, like you pay them this and then they do that for you. So how can you leverage other people? And the third thing, the fifth thing with that is how do you leverage technology, right? We live in the golden age of technology, and it's only going to keep on getting better. So you're watching a recording of this video, so I'm leveraging technology, but I can be sharing some of my thoughts with you, and you can be watching that on your own time as well. So that's how can you leverage that to make more money? Now the last point is that a rainy day is coming, so be prepared. The trap is that you never feel like you need insurance until the day you have insurance. And so, or until the day that there's an accident, or until the day that someone you love goes to hospital or whatever. So have their insurance, have the defense, have your emergency fund, because you're just never going to know when you're going to need the defense from those things. Well, thanks guys for watching. I know it's been a long one here, but would love if you can just let me know in the comments, like what did you find most helpful about this? Would really love if you can like this video as well. It just shows me that you found this valuable, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one here.